Welcome back to Scoliosis Day 7!
Action! Scoliosis!
Well done if you have made it through 7 days already. You are doing amazing and I'm so proud of you. Today we are going to be doing some yoga, some scoliosis and fusion safe yoga, of course. But always listen to your body. If something doesn't feel right, please stop. We're going to do some yoga, and of course yoga is safe for those of us with scoliosis, but there are some things that we do want to avoid, and that is what we're going to talk about after our yoga class today, so that you can still enjoy yoga and stretching and even fitness classes, but just having that knowing, that awareness of some things that you perhaps shouldn't do for your scoliosis curves. So what you're going to need today is a couple of blocks. You can also use books or pillows if you have them, if you don't have yoga blocks, but preferably yoga blocks, and a chair, one with a back on it, because we're going to be using this for some poses. We're going to be reaching out to it, so it's good to have a chair with a back. Then we're going to come and get started down onto our mat. So you're going to take your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, and we're going to start with a little bit of cat and cow. And this is a great way to mobilize the spine, but we're going to be very, very gentle in the way that we do it. So not a normal cat-cow where you really round into the back and then push the belly down. Very gentle rounding. And if you know you have a thoracic concavity, think about pushing that concavity up towards the ceiling. And then as you push the belly down, you can think about your thoracic convexity and pushing that side down more. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry. Just don't really get too deep into this. Just get a little bit of movement, a little bit of flexion and extension. If you have a fusion, you might prefer to do a scapular push-up. So that's where we let the chest sink down and then we push up and down. So getting protraction and retraction through the shoulder blades. It's kind of like a cat-cow. Get some mobility into the upper back and the shoulders. You can also freestyle a little bit if you want to give your hips a little wiggle, your head a little wiggle around. Also just moving it any way that feels nice as we start to just loosen up the shoulders, loosen up the hips. And see how your body is feeling today. How is this all feeling? Then from our cat-cow, we're going to come into puppy pose. So one of my favorites for getting some elongation. We're going to tuck our back toes under, send the hips roughly halfway back between your knees and your ankles, reach your arms out in front, and lengthen the spine. Try and keep the head nice and long, so not letting the neck collapse down towards the ground. Don't shrug through the shoulders. And get a couple of really nice, big, deep breaths here. Opening and expanding into the rib cage. Oof. And then gently bringing yourself back up. Well done. From here, you can either come back into your puppy pose or you could try a downward facing dog. For our downward facing dog, you can spread the fingertips nice and wide, and you're going to send the hips up and back towards the ceiling. I recommend keeping your knees bent so you can focus on getting length in your spine. Only once you have the hamstring mobility can you think about straightening your legs, but for us it is better to have a bent knee and a long spine. You can maybe think about pedaling out your legs a little bit, giving the hips a little wiggle around into the air. It's a great way to get some mobility into your ankles, your calves, hamstrings. And then from here, we're going to look forward, step both of our feet, and come into a forward fold. And this is where I recommend having some blocks out in front. You're going to keep a little bend in your knee. You're going to take your hands to your blocks. You can also Take your hands to the back of your chair and do your forward fold like this. So with the hands on the back of the chair or you're blocked, you're thinking about getting lots of length through the spine. So what you don't want to see is rounding the back. You want to avoid all of this kind of stuff. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but doing that repetitively for a long time could start to create some issues. It's just so much more beneficial for our scoliosis to focus on elongating the spine. And get some nice, big, deep breaths. Always thinking about your breath with yoga. It's really good for us to connect our bodies with our breath, our mind. Just taking this moment to become present with how your body is feeling today. Then from our forward fold, you're going to squeeze your tummy muscles, keep length in the spine, bend your knees, take your hands to your hips and lift yourself up to standing. Good. Then standing towards the front of your mat, we're going to move through some sun salutations. We're going to do the scoliosis friendly version of them. When you're in your Tadasana, so your mountain pose at the front of the mat, you can take your hands to your hips and push your hands gently into your hips to help lengthen the spine, reaching the crown of the head up to the ceiling. You can also take your hands to the top of your head and push your head into your hands to get that length. Just taking a moment here, check with your ankles, your calves, your arches. And then from here we're going to do our flow. So we're going to take an inhale, sweeping the arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, folding into your forward fold, either with your hands onto the blocks or your hands onto the chair. Inhale, lift and lengthen the spine. So you're trying to get 90-degree angles. You can still have that soft bend in your knees. And then exhale, folding, keeping length in your spine. And then we can take the hands down to the mat. You can bend your knees and step back into a plank position. Holding here, option to drop the knees down to the ground. We're going to squeeze our core muscles. Keep pushing the ground away from you through your hands so you're not letting your chest collapse down towards the ground. One more big inhale. And then as we come down to the ground, remember you can be on your knees. You're going to hug your elbows in towards your rib cage. Squeeze your tummy muscles. It's like you're in a plank as you're coming slowly down towards the ground. And then here we're just going to release our back toes and squeeze the upper back muscles. You can even float your hands off the ground because we don't want to push our spines into extension here, into a back bend. We can just do a little one and this helps to strengthen our back muscles. Then we can take the hands down, tap the back toes under, push yourself either into your puppy pose or your downward facing dog. And then looking forward towards your hands, stepping both feet, coming into your forward fold. You can put your hands on blocks out in front. And then inhale to rise. Keep the length in the spine. Let's bring the hands to the head. Push the head into your hands. Exhale, keep your hands down by your side. Keep the length in your spine. Get a big inhale in through your nose and out through your mouth. Inhale in through your nose and out through your mouth. We're going to flow through that one more time. Inhaling, sweeping the arms up. Exhale, folding, hinge at your hips. Keep the spine long. Come into your forward fold. Inhale, lift and lengthen the spine. Exhale, folding down. And then stepping back into your plank position. Remember, you can drop your knees to the ground. You're going to squeeze your tummy muscles, hug your elbows into your ribcage, and slowly lower the whole body down to the ground. Inhale, squeeze the upper back muscles. You can float your hands off the ground. And then push yourself up and back. into your downward facing dog, getting lots of length in the spine. And then looking forward towards your hands, stepping both feet. And then inhale to rise. And exhale, you can take your hands to your hips. Push your hands gently into your hips to get that elongation. Reaching the crown of the head up to the ceiling. Making sure you don't flare through the ribs. Whew. So now we're going to come into a wide-legged forward fold. So you're going to have your chair out in front. You're going to take your feet out wide. And I really do recommend not wearing any socks on a slippery floor because that is dangerous. And we're going to fold forward here. When you fold forward, if you're not used to doing a hip hinge movement, which means you're hinging at your hips, you can take your hand to your hips here and think about folding over your hands. So you're not letting your back round, you're using your hip joint to do the movement, not the spine. So we're going to take a big inhale, reaching the arms up above the head. Then we're going to hinge at the hips. You can bend into your knees, reach your arms out in front. Maybe push the chair away a little bit, send your hips back. And now we're in a wide-legged forward fold and getting lots of nice length through the spine. Big inhale into the back of the rib cage. Imagine your scoliosis just lengthening. And then from here, you can either walk your feet towards your hands or squeeze your tummy muscles, take your hands to your hips and bring yourself back up. Then you can heel toe your feet back onto the mat. Well done. Next, we're going to do a pyramid pose. So this is going to be a nice stretch for the spine and also our hamstrings. So feet shoulder width apart. Let's step the left leg back. You're not going to go really, really far back like you would in a warrior two. You're just going to go a couple of feet back and you're going to turn your toes out 45 degrees, not 90 degrees. So 45 degrees, like it's pointing to the top corner of your mat. You're going to take your hands to your hips and make sure your hips are facing towards your chair out in front. Then, keeping the spine nice and long, we're going to take an inhale, reach the arms up, and then exhale, folding forward, take your hands to the chair out in front, and think about pulling your right hip back and your left hip forward so that they are aligned with each other. Maybe you can push the chair away from you a little bit if you want to get a bit deeper into the stretch. Thinking about straight legs but a soft bend in your knees. So we never want to lock out the legs. I'm getting one more big inhale here. And then squeeze the tummy muscles, hands to the hips. Gently bring yourself back up. And then step forward. And step back on the other side. So same thing, your right toes are pointing towards the top right corner of your mat. Your hips are facing towards the front of your chair. Keeping the spine long with a soft bend in your knees but straight legs. You're going to inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, folding forward. Getting some real nice length into the spine. One more big deep breath here. And then engage your core muscles, hands to your hips. Gently bring yourself back up. And then stepping back to the front of your mat. We're going to do one more pose using the chair, and that is my favorite, a triangle or trikonasana if you're a yogi. So with this, we're going to step the left leg back. And this time we are going to go quite far back, kind of like a warrior two position. where your left toes are turned at 90 degrees and you can line up the arch of your left foot in line with your right heel. Your right foot is facing forward. You're having your legs straight but a soft bend in your knees. Please do not lock out your legs. Take your arms up to your sides, gaze down your middle finger and take an inhale, reach towards your chair and exhale. Taking your hand to the top of the chair, reaching your left arm up towards the ceiling. And we don't want to sink too low into our triangle pose here. So for example, like this, because of our scoliosis, we don't want to compress into any concavities. So just being aware of that. The chair is helpful, but obviously you don't have chairs in yoga classes, so sometimes you just got to make do with what you've got. But I do recommend using a chair. One more big inhale here. And then exhale, squeeze your tummy muscles, bring yourself back up, and then step back to the front of your mat. And we're going to do it on the other side. So the right leg, we're going to step it back, turn the right toes out 90 degrees, and line your left heel up in line with your right foot, the right arch of your right foot. Arms in line, take an inhale, reach towards the chair, exhale, down, right arm reaches up. And get some nice big deep breaths here. You can push into the chair, think about trying to keep length in the spine as you take some nice deep breaths through the whole right side of your body. And just notice how this side feels in comparison to the other side. Does it feel any different? And just acknowledge that. And then use your core muscles to bring yourself back up and step back to the front of your mat. Then we're going to come down into a child's pose, but we're going to do it the nice, friendly yogi way. So we're going to take an inhale, sweep the arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, folding down. You can take your hands to your blocks or to your chair. Get one more nice forward fold here. Lots of length in the spine. And then you're going to step yourself back into your plank position and lower yourself down onto the ground. Hug the elbows into your ribcage. Inhale, baby little cobra. Exhale. We're going to push ourselves into a child's pose. And this is where I recommend having a block or a pillow for your forehead so we don't round into the back. You can bring your toes together, take your knees out wide, sit your bum down towards your heels. If your bum doesn't quite reach your heels, you can place a pillow or a blanket underneath there to help elevate your hips a little bit. Then you're going to take your forehead to the block. Reach your arms out in front. And get some nice, big, deep breaths here. This is a great form of traction, some elongation for the spine. Try not to let the rib cage collapse down towards the ground. And we get 3 big deep breaths here. Big inhale in through your nose and out through your mouth. Big inhale in through your nose and out through your mouth. One more big inhale in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then slowly bringing yourself back. You can bring your hand together in heart center. Take a moment to just bow your head down, being grateful for your body, being grateful for your spine, for all of the things that it is capable of. Thank you for practicing with me today for Scoliosis. Namaste. Well done, my beautiful scoliosis friends. You could take a moment, put me on pause maybe, but we're going to sit down and have a little chat about yoga and fitness classes and all those things. So I'll see you in a sec. Can you do yoga with scoliosis? Yes, absolutely you can. Yoga has so many benefits, including working with your breath, doing diaphragmatic breathing, ujjayi breath, all the different yoga breaths to explore pranayama, as they call it. It's so beneficial to help regulate your nervous system, to help reduce stress and anxiety, to actually connect you with your body and how your body is feeling. I love the spiritual aspect of yoga as well. It's a great practice, like I say, that connects you with your body, but it connects you with the universe and nature. And you can really go down the path of yoga, which if you're into it, I recommend doing it because it's awesome. And that is why I love yoga. I have a lot of respect for it. It's not just stretching. It is a lot to do with mental health and connection with your body and the spiritual world. So if that is your vibe, then 100% do yoga. And yes, there are some poses with yoga that we really could do with avoiding when we have scoliosis, such as a wheel pose, for example, where you're doing a really deep back bend, headstands, like it's just kind of, obvious, but like deep twists. And that is because of our transition zones. So the points in between our curves, if my curve's going like this, the transition zones are the little points in between each curves that are the most mobile, because the curves are very stiff where the apex of the curve is. So when you're doing those deep twists or those deep back bends, the transition zones are the ones doing all of the mobility. So when you're repetitively doing that, it's going to aggravate those transition zones, so you can have problems there later on in life because it's going to cause disc degeneration. Same if you have a fusion, like of course a deep back bend is just not going to be a good idea, but you're going to cause aggravation to the transition zones above and below your fusion. So just being aware of that. And again, we don't want to do the deep twisting, forward folds, back bends because of the wedge shaped vertebra. When you compress a wedge, it pushes the wedge more to the bigger side of the wedge, like pushing on a doorstop, and that's going to push you more into your curve. And when you're doing the twists, the forward folds, that causes compression, which can push you more into your curve. So you just want to be aware of that. But it is very important to have a mobile spine. You still need to be able to twist, bend, flex, extend, all of those things. But just avoid doing the full range of that movement. Like you can probably twist really deep on one side compared to the other side, but just because you can do that doesn't mean that you should, because it might feel good, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's beneficial for your scoliosis or fusion, unfortunately. When you're in a yoga class, you can change or modify the poses. Use yoga blocks. Focus on getting length into your spine. Use the mirrors. Check, are you rounding your back? If you are rounding your back, think about lengthening the spine. It's so easy in yoga to get length instead of rounding, instead of arching. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You can modify for your scoliosis and make the practice more beneficial for your scoliosis instead of actually, potentially making things worse. So I do encourage it. It is also great for your core strength, great for mobility and flexibility. It is a workout. So again, if it is your vibe, please don't think you can't do it because you got scoliosis or fusion. You absolutely can, but you can just modify it. And that's the same with all fitness classes. All fitness classes, the gym, anything. Modify for your spine, focus on length, hold your scoliosis corrections, aka naturally try and reduce your cob angle as much as you can when you're doing the exercise, but just focus on movement. Please move your body. It is so important. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed Scoliosis, and I will see you tomorrow.